Seven on Sundays podcast is intended for mature audiences. Episodes discuss sensitive and fraught topics that many teens and 20-somethings face, but may be triggering. The content may not be suitable for all audience members. Please take caution when listening.
Welcome, Seven on Sundays listeners. I'm Dr. Shez, here with Stephanie Boy, and our guest today is a personal friend of my daughter's and her new business partner. His name is Jimmy. He created Creator's Corner. I'm really excited about this talk today because he's going to talk about how very successful, and I might say multimillionaire, young person comes into big success. And we've seen it in Hollywood. We've seen it in other things where that can be a scary downward spiral. But what my experience, not knowing Jimmy at all until I met you, is that he's very grounded and he may have had those pitfalls, but he's come out of them and he's in a very different place. And I think this is really worthy to understand how he stays in his kind of mental wellness space and really healthy relating with people. Like a lot of what I hear from you, Jimmy, unsolicited, I'm just kind of there in the background, is really good stuff to help young people that struggle with these things or have this image of the goal being the girls, the money, the cars, the other stuff versus grounded. So anyway, welcome to the show, Jimmy. Who knows where this is going to go, but we're excited. Woo! We're excited.
Welcome. Let's go. Well, thank you for that intro. Yeah, that was awesome. I'm here to answer whatever and talk about the stuff I know most people feel uncomfortable about. I'm an open book.
That's great.
We are too. Yeah.
So Jimmy, I guess I'll start with the first question is, you were how old when you, maybe just give us a little bit of your background so that we can kind of jump in and understand how becoming famous, TikTok famous, doing your thing, being successful, how did that all happen for you?
Yeah, so definitely not famous, but, have a following for sure. Definitely have like a following. And it came about, it was definitely very, very gradual. I started, my whole life, just brief background on me. I was always that kid that was selling stuff growing up. I fell in love with just commerce and transacting and business from like the age of like 7. I was selling Jolly Ranchers at school. Then I sold tie-dye socks when I was in middle school. I used to do garage sales, bake sales, had every odd job. I worked at Trader Joe's, Korean barbecue, boba tea. I've done everything. Pretty like humble beginnings. Nothing like, definitely wasn't poor. Like we had food on our table, but very, very tiny house. Slept on the couch till I was 14. Understood the value of a dollar as soon as I understood what a dollar was, and always just kind of desired to have money, to have the freedom, and to also like be able to have an impact. I think that was kind of the driving force all along, as well as have a house that was maybe a little bit bigger. I went to college at this small school in Orange County called Chapman, and they just were the ones that gave me the most money, and I was like, okay, cool, go there. Didn't really matter to me. And then, I was having fun there, whatever, then got sent home from COVID, and I had a whole hustle when I was in college too, and I was like, dang, like, I've been doing all these hustles no matter where I go at this point. I've done them from elementary school to now college in a different side of the state. I should just try something serious, like I should really, I was 19 as if I was grown up then, but I was like, you know what, let's take a leap. Let's do something. I just got inspired. It was like COVID time. We were locked up. I'm like, let's do it. And I just stuck with it. Like I really got inspired by reading books. I was reading, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich, as well as like spiritual books. I really started going down this rabbit hole. So I know you asked before this of like how I got into it. I just like randomly started picking up books and had an open mind. Like, honestly, I wish I had a cooler story of how I got into it.
Actually, there's a lot of kids today who really lack that entrepreneurial drive that I hear you say. I mean, reading the books and all that kind of stuff is a lot different than like, and the hustle to like have all those different kinds of jobs and wash cars or whatever it is that you're doing is very different than like, oh, I'm going to make a shit ton of money online, right? Like doing TikTok or whatever. So like, I'm not saying there's not hustle there, but like, that's like old school hustle, which I love.
Yeah, definitely had that.
Yeah. How did you transition from that into like what you're doing now so that you can kind of tell people what it is you do and where you made your money?
Yeah, so through reading all these books, I was just like, all right, I'm gonna start a real business. And then that led into I was selling products online, doing it like owning the brands and doing like e-commerce way, which was like I was terrible at, but I was really early to TikTok marketing. Really, really early. I just kind of stumbled on it before anyone was doing it in 2020. Got really, really good at it, was doing hundreds of millions of views for products though, nothing with me in it. So I've seen both sides of like crazy, crazy, views and awareness on products I was selling, nothing to do with me, completely faceless, to now being on the other side. I know what the difference is like and how it can be a lot. We had like 1 million followers on TikTok, all this, right? And then, it just kind of slowly progressed into everyone wanted to learn just the TikTok side. So I just leaned into that, and that's kind of been my thing now.
When you were talking about Jimmy, about the, growing up humble, and you were even humble with your first thing, like, whoa, I'm not famous, I have followers. Like, that's what I love too. That's grounding to me. Like, that's you're grounded in, oh, why, thank you, I'm famous. You're not going to do that. You're going to be like, no, the reality is I've got followers. But anyway, I would love to, I think, share with the audience how you were talking about the value. We were talking last night about the value of working, the value of working in retail or wait staff or whatever. Can you kind of say in those early days working at the Asian barbecue place, whatever that's called, or Korean barbecue, like what did that do for you?
Yeah, so I mean, I think when you grow up, I think it's such a blessing to grow up without, a ton, because you really have no choice to me to be like, or at least in the majority of cases, to be grounded and humble, because like, you've seen both sides. So, when people tell me they're like, oh, like I wish I had all this money growing up, I was like, I don't think you do. I learned that young because I was from a nice area, like it's Silicon Valley, Bay Area. And I saw what it's like to have like, the people that had a lot of resources. And I was like, I don't even want that. It's just like, you don't even appreciate it. You feel entitled to it. Like having to earn it is so rewarding. Like I would never want to not be given something in my life, or not have to be earning something in my life and just be given it. So I think that plays a big part. The other day I was with like my mentor, and this guy's a very successful brand owner. I know I've told you a lot about him, Shez. Your daughter knows him as well. And he's kind of like my like business dad. And we really, really got close over the last like 6 months. And I was just in Aspen with him, and we were driving, and he was like, how do you know this stuff? Like we were just talking about some topic, whatever, some life thing. I was giving him like some thoughts on a communication thing to improve with. And he was like, how do you know that? And I had to ask myself, like, how do I know that? And really what I boiled it down to over the years is not some magical thing that I have. I just listen to people. Like I really, when people tell me quotes and stuff and it resonates, I like really hold it deeply to my heart and try to like really enact it. And one of the first ones I ever heard when I was like 15 years old, someone was like, a smart person learns through making their own mistakes and learning from them, but a wise one learns through others. Like you don't have to make the mistakes yourself. You don't have to find out the learnings yourself to just, listen to what someone says. And I just always listened, and you start stacking these infinity stones over time. And now you have this whole bookshelf of people, oh, you're so wise, you're this and that. Like it's the same information that everybody hears all the time. I just like chose to write it down or really live it and enact it into my life.
That's so cool. So what you do now is you help, I don't know if it's thousands, I know you're gonna get to millions, but of people with how to do this TikTok thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said to Peyton and other people, like this really helps kids that are struggling with what can I do if I'm in between jobs or I don't have a job, like what's something I can do? And you've really helped people that are in that, and I'm talking single moms, like I'm talking, like I know those people that you guys have really helped. So that's so admirable and great that you're sharing the tools. But back to the topic, how did your evolution of being grounded, and did you go through that stage where it was like going a little wild with the money and all this stuff?
Not really. A little bit last year. I just got away from my journaling and meditating. That's that's the ultimate cheat code to staying grounded, but never have been too bad, to be honest with you. I don't know. I kind of was prepping for this my whole life.
I love that. I think actually coming from humble beginnings, that's a really amazing foundation for anyone. I mean, my dad, Shez's dad, both came from nothing, 8 children in the family, and my dad was the same as you. He was like, hustle, 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 everything he could. So I love that like humble beginning. But I think, and my dad was the same way all through life, never really like went crazy about money. But like, I want to talk about this because there are so many different ways for young people today. And I'm sure Jimmy, from people who reach out to you or whatever, that there's so many people who want what you have. It's like they want to be famous, or they want to have the money, or they want to have the ability to get the girls, or they want that, like whatever that is, right? It's
Yep.
like just attain, like that's what our culture is really driven by, especially a certain generation. But not everybody has the same foundation that you have. And we have seen multiple stories of people who go off the crazy end and do things. And like, what is it what have you learned from what you're doing to say, like you mentioned meditation and how grounding that is for you. What is it you would say to those people? Like, what do you need to know about yourself before you do this? Because I imagine, and I'm just going to throw this out there because I think it could add nuance to what you're going to tell us, but like there's a lot of validation. And you said, funny, interestingly enough, you started doing products and not showing yourself. But today, a lot of people are capitalizing on themselves. And I think it's somewhat of I would say like an ego-driven thing or a validation type of a thing. And I think that can be a lot different from someone like you who made it like not really doing that. Maybe you're behind the scenes kind of a thing. So maybe you can just give us some insider wisdom that you've seen.
Yeah, this is a good question, actually. So I think the number one thing that's going to be the deciding factor, whether someone blows up and, becomes like, super egotistical, entitled, all this, once they get money, whatever, because money definitely changes people, but it actually doesn't change people. It reveals people, right? It's an amplifier, right?
Yes.
And because then you now have the ability and resources to do a lot more things, and your voice can be louder. You can just amplify things with money. So you said people want all these things that, I quote unquote have, right? I always I'm like very like, if someone's like, I'm in a position where I can really talk to someone and have a real conversation, I always ask them, why do you want it? It's like, okay, well, I want girls because like, that's one people freeze up on a lot. Like, why do you want girls? Oh, well, I want a wife. So why do you want multiple? Why do you want to, sleep with them, this and that? Like, what's that have to do with wanting a wife?
Yes.
Yes.
You got to be asking yourself why all the time. And
yes,
then you'll realize, oh, really why I want girls is because I want to like look cool to my frat brothers. I want to look cool to my friends. I want to feel like validated. I want to feel worthy. I want to feel attractive. Well, that is something that you don't find through girls. It's that is something you need to find on your own first. And can be done in many other ways, right? And validation is external validation is super weak. External validation is fleeting. It's a drug. It just props you up on a false foundation and pulls it out under you as soon as it leaves. So same thing goes for money. Why do you want money? Well, I want to have nice things. Okay, so you want materialism? Okay, well, I don't want to work a job. Okay, so you want freedom. That's a pretty good why. That's valid. But is that why you're doing it? Because as soon as you get the money, you want people to know you have the money. That doesn't have anything to do with freedom. No, yeah. So now we're going back to validation again, right? And it's a different type, whatever. You want people to think you're worth something. That's why men that get money oftentimes will lead with that in dating, right? There's a big stigma around that of like, people will tell me this sometimes and I just laugh at them, but they'll be like, oh, girls only want you because you have money, this and that. And I'm like, I get why you say that. I really do. I understand why you'd say that, but it's like, I think sometimes girls don't even realize that I have money because it's like, to me, it's not even on the top of my mind. I don't think that's the coolest thing about me at all.
Right.
And, there's this whole thing with sugar daddies, this whole thing with like, I don't know if you've heard the term tricking. That's kind of a funny term, right? It's from guys being insecure and being like, there's nothing else this girl's going to like about me. So I need to spend money on her for her to like me, and for me to like get validation from her.
Right.
You're reminding me of this guy. It's hilarious. I was sending him to my daughter because he did this amazing TikTok where he was like, so there's this thing about guys being nonchalant. I don't understand the nonchalant thing. He's like, oh, I'm so nonchalant. I don't care. And he's like, chalant the fuck up, guys. We need to chalant the fuck up. Girls like chalant. They don't like nonchalant. And he
I
like goes
agree.
on this whole thing. And what you just said was exactly what he said. Make yourself interesting. Make
Yeah.
your money the least interesting thing about you. And
Mhm.
you literally just hit the nail on the head of what that guy said. And I was like in love with him. I'm like, oh my God, to my daughter, I'm like, this is the guy. This is the kind of guy you need. And
Yeah.
who cares about how much money you have?
Mhm.
Because let me tell you this, you could have all the money in the world and she'll cheat on you behind your back because you are
Totally.
nothing. Like
Totally.
your money is just buying her presence and her ability, her desire to stay with you for the whatever you can give her. Don't you want her to stay with you for who you are?
Right, exactly. So I'll take that a step further. Like, how do you become interesting? I'd argue that the way you become interesting is you be interested in other people,
Yes.
right? Like it's the how to win friends and influence people.
I was just going to say Dale Carnegie.
Right. It's like you'll make more friends in 2 months of being interested in people than 2 years of trying to get people interested in you.
Yeah.
And, that's why you can like really disarm people, because people will make assumptions about you if you're in any level of status, right? At anywhere, even if you're just like popular within a restaurant or popular within a small subset or school, people will make assumptions about you, and you really disarm them if like you're genuinely interested in them.
In this generation, especially this generation that is I'm not saying people are inherently narcissistic, but our culture demands, or not our culture, but youth culture demands a degree of narcissism to get somewhere, to that's what it all is. It's how many likes, all that kind of stuff. And I'm not shitting on that. I'm just saying it does necessitate a level of narcissism that wasn't there previously. So you will go a long way being interested in other people.
And so it goes back to the why thing, right? Because we were highlighting the kind of negative whys. The positive whys are things like, I know that money allows me to do like a lot of acts of kindness that are deeply fulfilling for me. I know that money allows me to travel the world and connect with more people that I would have never done otherwise. Allows me to have a free schedule so that I can do things that I do best at inspiring times. Like now we're getting more into it. It allows me to support my family. It allows me to so my family members can do the same. Those are the things you need to get ironed out before, for sure. And if those don't get ironed out, and especially there's underlying things that are insecurity, they will just explode as soon as you get money. And I'm not around it a lot, but I've seen it many times.
This is such a good conversation, Jimmy. This is so important because we said it the other night, but you're the 1% of 1% in your, 24-year-old age generation group of the kind of people, not that I'm around a lot of those people, but the kind of people who have come into big success like that, yet have this kind of mindset. So as a family therapist, I need to ask, what did your parents do right? For one thing, like they did a lot of things right, clearly, because you don't seek validation. And most of us do. Most of us get really excited with the likes and the accolades and the awards and the whatevers. And then second part to this question is, so what did your parents do that we want to hear? The second part is, Steph and I teach, you saw our little pitch deck or our pitch video. How did you learn to be, this was going to sound weird words, but such a good lover? Like, how did you learn to be a good lover of humanity, of your friends, of women? Like, you must have had good role models or you sought it out, but you know how to be a good friend and boyfriend. Like, I can tell that.
So definitely reading is was the most important thing to me. I think if there's anything you could do to vastly progress in your life as a young adult, it would be to pick up every self-help book you see in front of you from all these, authors that have astounding lives, whatever. If you're writing these famous books, like you're somebody, I'm not saying everyone's good. Some of them you're going to reject. I think discernment, we can talk about later, is one of the most powerful things you can have in your life. But picking up books. I remember the first year I was like really liking this self-improvement thing. I read 60 books. Get a friend with you that's into it too. I promise you, every young person knows somebody else. You just got to seek them out sometimes and inspire them that wants to be better too. You know, they just have to have the reason to do it. You guys keep each other accountable. You start a little mini book club. You guys, whatever, start businesses together or side by side. Like this is what I did with my hometown best friend. And it was, now he's a multimillionaire and I'm a multimillionaire. Like it was honestly life-changing. And all we did was we picked up a bunch of books. You just, Google's free. We're looking up, you know, what are the top business books? And you literally just kind of spiral from there. You literally just spiral upward from there. The book that really changed me on the loving side it was two books. One, Conversations with God. Have you ever read it?
Yeah, I've read like all three of them. And then he had I can't remember what his second one series was too, which was very good.
Yeah, I kind of joke around. I'm Christian, so I don't actually mean this, but I jokingly call that my Bible. It just is like the way it like resonated with different topics, like very in depth, like to the exact T of the questions was really cool to me. And probably one of the best quotes I've ever heard in my entire life. I mean, this thing literally, I just had to get up and walk around. I was like, what was the guy asks God or whatever, right? Like it's the sin down the story. He says, why do most relationships fail? Every relationship I know fails. Every marriage is bad. All this, da, 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 da. And he goes, the reason most relationships fail is because people seek completeness in other people instead of someone to share their own completeness with. Mm-hmm. And woo, that like knocked me out. That knocked me off my feet. I was like, wow. That is so interesting and so not only accurate for myself, but probably everybody else I've ever talked to, where it's this thing of like, you know, if I don't have a boyfriend, I don't have a girlfriend, something's missing. Mm-hmm. Something's missing and I'm not completed. I didn't do something right. I'm lacking. And it's so ironic because when you do the opposite, you're like, well, then would I not need a boyfriend or girlfriend? No, you start to share the overflow instead of like, it's an incredible amount of pressure to put on somebody to expect them to have to complete you and have to be a part of your happiness all the time. And if they're not performing there, they're missing stats. Like that is a really bad way to go about any relationship.
Yeah, I have chills. And so good, Jimmy. So good. Because the famous quote, you know, what's his name? Anyway, is like, you complete me, you know, in that movie. It's an old movie. But
you gotta be careful with those.
You gotta be careful with that because it's not accurate. That is so true. And I think you finding these books and these quotes.
Jerry Maguire
was a teacher. Yes, thank you, Jerry Maguire. But you finding these quotes, another part of this, another piece of this is when the student is ready, the teacher appears. And that's the thing too, is like, you were ready to hear it. Some people might read that and just brush over it, but you were like in a primed place. And again, I don't know if that's because of the way your parents raised you. I think they probably had a lot to do with it. Or you just, you know, are this old soul person. And I don't know what it is, but you were ready to hear it in that way. So yes, it gave you chills. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I can definitely talk about, my mom definitely played a part for sure. But the other book that I think should be like a required reading for young adults, holy cow, this book is so unbelievably slept on. It's always going to be in my top 3 forever, is Learning to Love Yourself by Gay Hendricks. Can't forget that name. It is the most unbelievable read. It will basically break down why you do not love yourself and why you struggle to say that and, you know, struggle with insecurities in every single logical argument and emotional argument you've ever had, and just have you in the end like, oh, wow. But the life-changing thing from that book, the overarching thing, is that true love, this is a good one. True love is acceptance. Because if a lot of times we're stuck these days, especially, so social media has made standards go way through the roof, right? We want perfect scenarios, perfect people, this, that, because we're only posting highlight reels for the most part, right?
Right.
So we get stuck saying these things like, it's so ridiculous to say, I love them, but, you know, they're oh yeah, they're the love of my life. I just hate the way they, you know, go to work, and I hate the way they get mad at me, and I hate the way they do this. You don't love them, right? Because like you can't pick and choose the sides of somebody as if they're not part of them. I can't say that, you know, Shez, I you know, hate the way she eats her food or something like that, right? Because that's you. That's a part of who you are. I have to accept that. And to accept somebody's flaws just as much as their positives is true love, right?
Yeah.
To be like, that is what makes them perfect. Their imperfections, nobody even really likes an imperfect person, right? The people that we all idolize, we actually enjoy their imperfections, you know, and little things about them. And when you really start to embrace that in every corner is when it's like, oh, wow, this is completely different than I ever approached it.
It actually leads me to some of the questions that I have that are particular to when you have reached a certain level of anything, like getting what you want, whether that is the girl that you want or the job that you want. And it's this desire that like the grass is always greener and what is next and how do I get that? And I think that that is a huge part of it, because I think there's so much built up, like you were saying, you know, what we see is the edited reel. It's like the perfected, this vision of perfection that doesn't exist. And I think even though there's a lot of creators out there, I think everyone falls victim to what something is really supposed to be. Like, for example, I want to go to Montana, and I'm actually hating looking for pictures of Montana on Instagram. I don't want to look anymore because I'm like, I don't want the filtered view of it, because I'm going to get there and I'm going to be disappointed. And I think that exists a lot in life when you're young, because you've seen all of this stuff. And so my kids will say to me, I need someone who's this tall and looks like this and blah, 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 and like all this kind of stuff, especially my 19-year-old daughter, right? And I'm like,
Right.
you know what pisses me off? I say this to her, I go, when I was young, I dated tall guys, short guys, blonde hair, brown hair, usually brown hair, brown eyes, blue eyes.
brown.
It didn't more brown, but like it didn't really matter to me. What mattered to me was I sat next to them on a date or at a bar and they made me laugh and they engaged me and they got my attention. I thought they were witty. I thought they were smart. I thought all of these things about them. That was my prerequisite bottom line. I like, you know, my son is not, you know, is, you know, 5'9", and my husband is 6'2". And he's like, yeah, but dad's like this perfect. I go, I dated plenty of guys who were 5'9", literally plenty who were 5'8", 5'9", didn't matter to me. Height never mattered. What you look like didn't matter. Who you were mattered more than anything. And I think that that is really missing today. And I think a lot of it comes from social media, obviously. And it also is that, I also think it's the dopamine drive that's like, even if you have one, like you were saying, like, well, if you want a wife, why do you need all the girls, right? Keep asking the why. Why do you want this? Why? If you ask why,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
apparently-
because I could totally break down your daughter's argument there with just asking why. Why do you want those features? Is it to take Instagram photos with them? Like, is it like, you know?
Yeah, like I don't get it. Like I don't get it at all. But I do think that that is kind of like a problem of this, more so of
Totally.
this generation, because we can make the list and this is what perfection looks like. I wasn't going for perfection. I was going for happiness. I think
Right.
she was probably going for the same thing, you know? Like perfect is not happy. By the way, happy is not perfect.
No.
Happy is not perfect.
Yeah.
Might be happy, but like happy is not perfect.
Totally.
And there is no
Totally.
perfect, because like you said, it may be the, you know, the things on paper, and then you can't carry a conversation, or there's no trust, or there's whatever, you know. So anyway, so there's, if you are able to connect on the root things, like you're saying, the important value driven things, then the other stuff looks really attractive, actually. Like all of it looks more attractive when that happens. And again, there is no perfect. None of us are, you know, so I
Which
love
has been
that.
how I explained Stanley Tucci. I'm like, Stanley Tucci doesn't fit into the perfection of anyone's model, but that guy has women coming after him because he knows about Italy. He's sexy. He's dressing well. He might be short. He might have no hair, but he is like cultured and cool and like the epitome of like just the guy you want to hang out with, you know?
Well, authenticity is very magnetic.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's very magnetic. There's something that nobody can really figure out and why it really happens. That when you tell the truth and you really are who you are, and there's not some filter in between what you're feeling and saying, somehow people pick up on it. Like everybody has that radar.
Yeah.
Yes. You cannot buy authenticity. You are so right.
Yeah. So,
You can practice it bit by bit if you have trouble with it, but it has to be a conscious awareness
I
process.
bet you see that in what you're doing too. Like the more authentic creators are maybe the ones who people go like, yeah, I believe that person.
Totally. 100%. 100%. It's actually one of my biggest focuses for this year. It's been one of the hardest things I've done in my life, but I'm like a natural born people pleaser. Like I've always been like that. I want to make everybody happy, this and that. In a way, it's a total, like, it's great for what I do, but it makes you an empath for sure. But, it's also bad because you walk over yourself, you let yourself get walked over. You can lose authenticity really quick. That's losing authenticity. That's like, trying to, make situations work, people happy, this, that, whatever, it's becomes a very big mess in a lot of ways in your life very quickly. I'm really starting to get the courage to be disliked. Like, I'm okay if somebody doesn't like me. I'm okay if someone's this and that, right? And it's one of those ironic things where people end up really liking you and respecting you for it. So it's like, it's rewarding, but I really am like trying to push myself to like, really be okay with that. Like, it's okay. As long as I'm being who I am and it's repelling people who are not aligned with what I want to do and the standards and character stuff that I stand for, then boom.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. We've actually come full circle now on this topic because like what we were originally going to talk about, we sort of started about was, how people get lured into this and then they, devolve because they're chasing the wrong thing. But the authenticity means you're walking away from certain things and that aren't in alignment with you. And also it keeps you walking on the path that's true to who you are. So it all comes back to that, both sides of it, which is very interesting.
I love it. Love it.
100%.
Okay, in kind of wrapping this up a little bit, what, Jimmy, would you say are maybe 3 or 5 of your favorite tools to kind of keep yourself grounded, keep yourself authentic? I know you mentioned meditating and journaling. I'm interested to know how you, as a male, journal, like what your process is for that. And reading books, like reading inspirational books. So those are 3, but either you can describe those more or add to it if that's enough and that's what you do. But whatever kind of tips you might give for other young people, like let's say that 18, 19-year-old, 15-year-old, whoever that is like, wow, this might be new for them to hear that a 24-year-old man journals and meditates like daily or whatever, whenever you do it. So tell us about that.
Yeah, it's such a funny one to me now because now it's not like everybody in my life that I'm kind of around and like have in my circles does it too. So it's totally normal to me. But I'm self-aware enough to know it's not normal at all, and people find it so crazy that as a male I do that. It's not a common thing for males. So I mean, who cares, right? Like, it works. And if someone says like, oh well, I don't need to do that, or that's so odd to do as a guy, like, I'm honestly more intrigued because I'm trying to do the opposite of what most people are doing, to be honest, a lot of times. And I forgot where I got inspired to do it first. It was journaling was first. That was like my first thing. And the way I like to do it, I've tested a bunch of different ways. I'm very like, I like making money and growing businesses, right? So like, I'm very goal oriented and, I'm always working towards things. I journal everything that I want in my life as if I already have it with gratitude. So that's my way of doing it. Like I usually have my 3 to 5 things, fitness, business, usually some kind of emotion thing I'm working towards, right? Like, so whether it was posting content or whether it was, having courage to be disliked, right? I'm journaling towards those things. I'm so grateful that I wake up every day being authentic to myself. Boom, right? Just saying these things that I'm like, almost like affirmations. and I'll try to really, really get in the state. I have a saying, I say, if you didn't feel it, it didn't count. You didn't do it, right? You have to really feel it. You have to align that frequency. And that's why I think I've now put meditating as my S tier above journaling, just because it's almost a non-negotiable. You're going to feel it. And yeah, so I'll meditate anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour a day, usually first thing in the morning while I'm still in that theta state. I got really into the Joe Dispenza kind of rabbit hole, went to his week-longs, and typically we'll do those guided meditations and just think about the life that I want to live, the person that I want to be. You know, you have to break free from your past habits. You have to break free from your survival brain and get into that thrival state, you know, thriving.
I want to reiterate what you said, because these are like tools of, whatever, therapy or anything, self-help, that journaling in the, present tense of what you want and adding in the with gratitude as if it already happened, and then adding the feeling. It's almost like, the way I describe it to people is, if you want to do a marathon and you picture yourself at the end of that race, you are there. Who's there? What are you wearing? Who's cheering you on? Tell that whole scene in your mind. You're there. And as you said, with gratitude, oh my God, I did it. Thank you, me. And what's that feeling? Like that elation of that. When you do that, there's no doubt in my mind that you're going to run a marathon. Like if you do that daily, like you did, and did you do this for your success? Like, did you do this pre-financial success?
Oh, you wouldn't even believe.
You did. Okay.
You wouldn't even like diabolically. Yeah.
Okay. You did the marathon visionary stuff.
Yeah. It's scientifically proven that it's like, it's the basketball thing. If you think about making the shot before you shoot it, it's scientifically proven. You're like 50% more likely to make it.
Yeah. Amazing.
That's so cool.
So I love it. So we've got the three things. I want to say one other thing that you said that I actually really think is a tool too, though we're not calling it out as a tool here. But you said be interested in other people. I think that's a huge tool, because it's not just a tool for like creating that connection, but it's also a tool to get you out of your own brain. You know what I mean? It gets like there's nothing worse for people who are struggling. Like, let's just say you're a content creator, you're struggling, you want all of the things, and you do not have a healthy mental space. I worked in Mexico for a year at an orphanage. I know a lot about what it means to have nothing. I've seen it firsthand. I lived that. So there's not a lot when I hear people say things, I'm like, that's a first world problem. I mean, I've seen children who have nothing, who have no parents, who have nothing, so. But I think asking someone about them, just always being engaged in the other person, is a huge tool.
Yeah. Oh my God.
One other one you said, we're going to call it out now without saying it's a tool, but it is surrounding yourself with the people that uplift you and teach you and support you and that you are interested in, and having the boundaries to say no and be okay not being liked by a certain group.
Yes.
Having that self-awareness to be like, okay, to say, no, that doesn't align with me, that person or that situation. I'm not going to partake. And I have a therapist personally that has said to me, Shez, there was this thing, I went on a vacation and she was like, I want you to say no when you don't want to do something. Don't people please. And it was like a big group of girls, and like, I don't like those things sometimes. So I wanted to be able to say no, to like the confidence. And she said just what you said. She said, it's okay if they don't like you. It's okay if they're mad. It's okay. Who cares? You are taking care of yourself. And I was like, okay,
as long as you are.
Challenge. Yeah.
As long as you
are. As long as you are. And it's not done in a mean way. It's just like, no, I'd rather, or whatever,
Always. Always cut them off with love. I feel like sometimes when I'm cutting people off or whatever, right, I'm almost like I'm in the wrong here. Like, I have ridiculous standards that is not fair for you to be around. It's like that's more often than the opposite of like, if you are constantly in the right in your life, you're the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You're the problem, 100%.
Yeah. Wow. Good stuff. Okay. I know you have to get back to work. Steph has to get to her.
I have to be cooking.
You have to be cooking.
I have one thing for Jimmy. Since you said you are Christian and we were talking about relationships and your relationship book, I am reading a book right now. It is life-changing and it is old. It's been around for a long time, but it talks about how to have relationships in a very Christian way, not in a very like Catholic. I don't know, I grew up Catholic, but like not necessarily that, but just in like how to respect other people, which is Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis.
Okay. I love C.S. Lewis.
Great old
Game
classic.
changer.
Yeah.
Got it. Wrote it down.
I love the books you mentioned, and you guys will put those in the notes. We'll put information about what Jimmy does in the notes. And this has been super informative.
Yes.
I would love, Jimmy, to have you back sometime when you're not off, rolling the world and traveling the world. Talk about relationships, like what's dating like out there as a 24-year-old and how you manage that with the mindset you have, because a lot of people don't have that mindset. So I'm curious about that. So that would be a great other podcast if you're interested.
No problem.
You know what would be interesting? Why that would be interesting? Because a lot of people think that they can, I hate to say this, but a lot of people think they can shit on other people because they're trying to do hustle culture and they've got to make their life happen. I would love to know how people are kind to other people at the same time as pursuing their own, desires, dreams, goals, reaching for their goals and still being kind to other humans. Because it seems like that kind of gets lost a lot of times today.
There was a few topics that got brought up on that where I was going to say it is so important to just completely reject things you don't want to ever see in your life. Even if they're like objectively happening everywhere, there is a superpower to just being like forcing naivety or being naive on yourself, right? It's like, I refuse to believe that there's, men that are disrespectful to women. I refuse to believe that there is, these people that are completely ego driven. Like, I just like refuse to believe that that's going to be a thing that I get in my life. There's really, you will find what you look for.
Yes. Jez, you say that, you actually said that very often when you left the rape center, that it was not something that was going to happen to you.
I would walk out to a dark, scary parking lot at midnight, 11 p.m. after seeing rape victims, survivors all day. And I would say to myself, this is not my thing. I'm not going to get raped. That's not my thing. I know it's not my destiny. I would say that over and over and get to my car, and it wasn't my thing. Wasn't my thing.
Yep.
That's not to say that, things happen, but I knew it wasn't my thing. I have other things to work through. That one wasn't mine. I was meant to be there for those survivors, but it wasn't my thing to go through.
Right. You had to break that pattern.
Yeah.
Jimmy, thank you so much for your time and for your insight. And I'm going to say thank you to your parents too for raising a great kid.
Thank you to them. Yep.
Thank you to them.
And your mom. I mean, we're moms. We gotta like
Woo!
give it up for your mom.
Shout out moms.
Mom power. You're amazing.
All right, thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
All right, take care.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of 7 on Sundays.
The 7 on Sundays podcast represents the opinions of Dr. Shez Leby and Stephanie Boy based on our experience. It also shares the stories, behaviors, and opinions of our guests that we do not necessarily condone or view as healthy. 7 on Sundays is an open forum to discuss what is happening with our listening audience. Some names and details of our guest stories have been changed to protect their anonymity. This podcast is not a substitute for mental health treatment. If you are in crisis and in need of mental health support, please call 988, the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It is free and confidential.
Join the conversation and connect with us through our website, 7onsundays.com. That's the number 7onsundays.com. We encourage everyone to do their own research. Thank you and be well.